just consider that both of these teams are going to get bounced out before the end of the playoffs. So, the Magic are kind of fun to watch, but I probably won't watch that game, to be honest with you. Sun Spurs, I will be DVRing and watching every second of every play of that game. No doubt about it. What a game. I mean, double overtime, game one. All right, last second shots all around. That's worth watching. I mean, these are two teams that know each other well, that play each other hard, and that it pretty much guarantees to be an exciting watch. You gotta, if you watch sports, if you're kind of into basketball, but you don't really watch the NBA that much, watch that game. Watch the Suns and Spurs. It'll be interesting to see how it works out, because like I pointed out the other day, all right, Tim Duncan goes for 40 and 15 in game one. Ironically, Shaquille O'Neal is brought to Phoenix to shut Tim Duncan down. And so that's how Duncan responds in game one. He scores 40 points, grabs 15 boards. It's just ironic. That's all. Just ironic. Not that the Shaq move was a bad deal and that Phoenix isn't going to win now with Shaquille O'Neal. They could still win. They could win the series. They could win the whole thing. But it's ironic that game one against San Antonio, when you have your guys in place, you have Shaquille O'Neal now, come clog up the lane and neutralize Tim Duncan. It's ironic that Duncan has a career night. Game one. It doesn't mean it was a bad move to get Shaq. I like Shaq on Phoenix. I think it's a good fit. And they could very well beat San Antonio. I hope they do. That's easily who I'm pulling for in that series, is Phoenix. Easily. I mean, I do not want to see San Antonio back in the... I can't. I can't stand the Spurs. They drive me nuts. And I really like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili. I really do. But for some reason, Tim Duncan doesn't even bother me that much. Sure, he's incredibly boring. But it's not like he doesn't bother me. I don't hate the guy. But for some reason, I am incredibly anti-Spurs. Incredibly. And it doesn't make any sense. They were never any sort of a problem for Michael Jordan's Bulls when I was growing up. See, sometimes I hold on to some resentment for teams because when I was growing up, I was such a diehard Bulls fan, and I really had emotional attachments to my teams in all sports growing up, to the point, where I just totally disliked other teams and disliked people on those teams strictly because, like I always hated Utah. Growing up as a Bulls fan, I always hated the Jazz. But, since Darren Williams, my favorite college player ever, was drafted by now I have to, I've come around. I'm pulling for the Jazz. I like the Jazz. My emotional attachment to my teams that I had when I was little has really, really faded. I mean, it's just not what it was. Like, and maybe it's from doing this show. I don't know. Maybe it's from doing the show, but I can't hate the teams that I used to. There's still a little bit of leftover resentment. Like, I always hated the Dallas Cowboys. I grew up a Niners fan. And I always just resented the Cowboys. And, I hated Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin. Ugh, I mean, they made me sick. They made me sick. I despised them. But now that I've grown up, I'm a T.O. fan. I like Tony Romo. I like Marion Barber. Growing up, I've kind of let go of some of that resentment. Thank God. It's not healthy. You can't live like that. But for some reason, I still just don't like San Antonio. I just never have. And I can't pinpoint it. I don't know why. And I know that you guys don't like San Antonio either. So explain it. Why don't you? Maybe it's Michael Finley. I don't know. I never thought I had a problem with him. But for some reason, I'm so anti-San Antonio. Maybe it's because they've been so good for quite a while now without being exciting or entertaining. And it's just, you get tired of seeing the same thing over and over again if it's not fun to watch. And San Antonio is not fun to watch. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just tired of seeing them because they're just boring. I don't know. But then when I start thinking about Ginobili and Tony Parker, I'm like, these guys aren't boring. These guys are fun to watch. But still, I am rooting hard against them. There's one of them to roll an ankle or pull a hammy. I'm just kidding. I don't wish any physical pain. Okay, maybe a few people, but not Tony and Manu. They seem like good enough guys. But still, let's go Phoenix. You know, and that's another thing. I'm rooting for a team that I grew up despising because they went up against Jordan's Bulls in the championship. It played them tough. You know, Barkley and Kevin Johnson. I always liked Barkley. I couldn't stand Kevin Johnson. Right, but even now, here I am rooting for Phoenix. Let's go Suns. Beat those Spurs. I can't figure it out.